Manny being Manny is a phrase that can give a simple overview of Manny Ramirez, one of baseball's best characters and personas, who was also one of the best hitters of his era. But it was his era that landed him the same controversy many other players from the time did, and prevented him from the Hall of Fame. So let's look at the wild career of Manny Ramirez.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
Manny was born on May 30th, 1972 in Santo Domingo, and his story really begins when he moved to New York City at age 13. He often played baseball at Snake Hill, pursuing his major league dreams he had since he was 5 years old, playing with Pablo Captain 6 in the Dominican Republic. And he really kept this all to himself. His sisters, even his mom, had no idea just how good he was. He won 3 straight division titles in high school, being named All-City 3 times, and he was named the New York City Public Player of the Year as a senior, after hitting .650 with 14 home runs in 22 games. He kept it so private that when he got drafted, his family found out from a phone call telling them to turn on the 6 o'clock news. And he of course had to work hard to get there. And as he didn't speak much English, he was very shy, and his work ethic was incredible, waking up at 5 a.m. to run, sometimes dragging a 20-pound tire behind him up city hills, and that work ethic became something he was known for. And it led scouts to start showing up, even in a neighborhood some didn't feel safe walking through. Cleveland Indians scout Joe DeLuca kept tabs from a distance so the other teams wouldn't catch on, as he wanted Manny bad. And despite doubts from others, including one scout who said no Latin American immigrant had ever been drafted in the first round, his family watched on the news as the Indians picked him 13th overall in the 1991 draft. He signed for $250,000, went to rookie ball in North Carolina, and hit .326 with 19 home runs in just 59 games. But his follow-up was a little rough. A broken bone in his hand slowed him down, but he was still referred to as the most exciting player in the Carolina League. But as his injury healed, by 1993, he became too good to ignore, hitting .333 with 31 home runs and 115 RBIs over 129 games in Double and Triple A, as he was named the Minor League Player of the Year. And that September, he got the call, as he was heading to the major leagues. He debuted against the Twins and would go 0 for 4. But the next day, he returned to New York City with family watching at Yankee Stadium, and his first hit was a drive down the left field line that bounced and landed in the seats, causing him to think he had a home run and just keep running past second. Really his first Manny being Manny moment. But he would hit one over the fence in his third at-bat, then another in his last, as he also drove in 3 on the day. He managed just 6 more hits in his next 45 at-bats, with a 170 average to end his first month. He mostly pinch hit, sometimes even pinch ran, but he was still just a September call-up at that point. And then came 1994, officially his rookie season. And well, that wasn't a full season either. He played in 91 games before the player strike cut the season short. He hit .269 with 17 home runs and 60 RBIs with an .870 OPS as he finished second Rookie of the Year voting. The Indians were one of those teams most affected by the strike, as they were 20 games over 500 and had a real chance to end the 40-year playoff drought. But they were just getting started, and Manny was a big reason why. In his first full season in 95, that also wasn't really a full season, he would make the All-Star team for the first time. In the end, he had 31 home runs, drove in 107, and helped Cleveland end their playoff drought. A mainstay in the offense that featured Kenny Lofton, Albert Bell, and Jim Thome. An offense that led in about every offensive category. In his first playoff series against his future team, he would slump, not recording a hit in his 12 at-bats, but they swept the Red Sox and moved on to face the Seattle Mariners, where he would deliver, hitting 2 home runs with a .919 OPS as they won the series in 6 games for the first pennant in 41 years. But in the World Series against the Braves, the offense kind of vanished. Manny hit just .222 as the Braves won in 6, but they still had a bright future, and Manny would only get better after signing a 4-year $10.15 million contract. From 96 to 98, he averaged 34 home runs per season, while averaging 40 doubles, 115 RBIs, and a .310 average with a .970 OPS, only making the All-Star team in 98 when the power really started to show as he hit 45 home runs and drove in 145. The Indians made the playoffs each of those years, and after hitting .375 in the 96 ALDS, which they lost, the next season, he would help the Indians make it back to the World Series against the Florida Marlins. And like he did in 95, he showed a few signs of power, but ultimately, he hit just 154, as the Indians lost in 7 games in crushing fashion, having leads in every game, including in the 9th of Game 7. The Indians made it to the ALCS again in 98 after beating the Red Sox, and facing the Yankees. In Game 6, he showed why he was known more for his bat, as a misplayed fly ball in right field led to a crushing 2-run triple from Derek Jeter. No error on the box score, but a bit of a blunder, as it would halt any comeback from Cleveland, still hitting .343 over the playoffs. And that led him into his best season, and a bit of an unbelievable one for the time. That mainly lies in the fact that he recorded 96 RBIs at the break, the third highest ever, as he of course made the All-Star team, and by the end of the season, he recorded an eye-popping 165. Also noted that he missed 15 games. That's the franchise record, and the most since Jimmy Fox in 1938. He hit 383 with runners in scoring position and 377 with runners on base. In the year of 1999, the Indians recorded 960 RBIs. That's the record for a team in a 162-game season. And Manny led the charge, as he also added 44 home runs, hit 333, and led in slug, OPS, and OPS+, as he finished third in MVP voting. A very tough year with Pedro Martinez, who I think should have won, and Ivan Rodriguez, but historic nonetheless. But unfortunately, he would struggle in the postseason, as the Indians would lose to the Red Sox in the LDS. And then came the year 2000, important as it was his contract year, and he did not disappoint. Even with a hamstring injury that cost him 39 games, he still hit 38 home runs, drove in 122, and hit 351. He led the league in slugging and OPS, finishing 6th in MVP voting in another loaded year that could have been even more without those missed games. And that led him into his first free agency, where everyone knew he was going to get paid. And he did. He declined a 7-year, $119 million deal from the Indians, seeking $200 over 10. And as teams like the Yankees and Mariners pursued him, in December of 2000, he would sign an 8-year, $160 million contract with 2-year options with the Boston Red Sox, the second largest deal in baseball history at the time. And as he stepped into a bigger market, the expectations were of course massive, and he would deliver. Over his first 2 seasons, he hit 74 home runs, drove in 232, hit 325 with a 1.051 OPS, adding his 5th silver slugger, as he made the All-Star team both years, doing this even after missing nearly 50 games with a fractured finger in 2002, as he won the batting title with an average of 349. And both years saw the Red Sox ultimately underperform. The dysfunction in Boston was brewing, and so was Manny's relationship with the media. He didn't like talking to reporters because he didn't trust them, and they did not like that. But things would change in 2003. The Red Sox brought in a new GM, Theo Epstein, who was just 28 years old, and another Dominican star emerged in David Ortiz, while Manny just kept hitting, a 325 average, hitting 37 home runs, and driving in 104. But controversy followed him off the field into the summer after missing several games with pharyngitis. He was spotted in a bar at a hotel with a friend, and that friend was Yankees infielder Enrique Wilson. They maintained that he was just chatting with him and not partying, but he was benched for a game as a result. And the Red Sox would make the playoffs the first time with Manny Ramirez, where he helped fuel the Yankee-Red Sox rivalry to its peak. But to get there, they had to beat the Oakland Athletics. And in the decisive Game 5, he launched a 3-run home run off Barry Zito to break a 1-1 tie. And that would be the difference to set up a Yankee-Red Sox ALCS. After splitting the first 2, with Manny recording 4 hits and a home run in Game 1, Game 3 was when tensions really rose. After tying the game, Pedro's first pitch to Kareem Garcia in the 4th hit him in the back, and Garcia took exception. Garcia and Martinez had a stare-down as words were exchanged between both teams, causing warnings to be issued. Alfonso Soriano would hit into a double play that scored a run, and Garcia slid hard in the 2nd, and tensions carried into the next inning. On Roger Clemens' 4th pitch to Manny, he threw high and inside, probably not trying to hit him, but with emotions high, Ramirez got upset, and he went after Clemens, causing the benches to clear. And out of the dugout came 72-year-old Don Zimmer, who went after Pedro Martinez. And well, Martinez sidestepped him, got a hold of his head, and he threw him to the ground, a lasting image of the rivalry that caused a 13-minute delay. Clemens would end up striking out Ramirez, and the Red Sox scored only once more, as they lost 4-3, with tensions remaining high throughout the game that led to a scuffle between the groundskeeper and Kareem Garcia. The Red Sox won Game 4, but the Yankees took Game 5 and left Fenway up 3-2. However, the Red Sox forced Game 7 with a 9-6 win, and well, they ultimately wished they would have just lost Game 6, as of course, Aaron Boone would hit the walk-off home run to send the Yankees to the World Series. Ramirez a part of many playoff runs at that point, but many heartbreaks as well. And as Grady Little would be fired because of decisions in that Game 7, Manny expressed an interest in leaving Boston, and this was not his first time. With John Henry planning to be aggressive, Manny was placed on waivers after the season. They could have called him back if any team claimed him, but none did, mainly because he still had $100 million left on his contract. It's possible the Red Sox did this just to prove a point, that he had it awfully good in Boston. But it did not end there. There was serious discussion about sending him to the Rangers as part of a deal for Alex Rodriguez, but that would never come to fruition, and I guess he was stuck in Boston. But he would ultimately be glad. He had another huge season in 2004, another All-Star appearance, and Silver Slugger, leading the league with 43 home runs, along with the highest slug and OPS, the 9th time in the last 10 seasons where he had at least 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. and him and David Ortiz would become the first teammates since Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig in 1931 to both hit 40 home runs and drive in 100. And they also hit back-to-back home runs 6 times, tying the record set by Hank Greenberg and Rudy York, and Magglio Ordonez and Frank Thomas, as the Red Sox were the wild-card winners again. And Ramirez would hit .385 against the Angels in the LDS, which was a 3-game sweep, leading to the inevitable Red Sox-Yankees ALCS. And it did not exactly start out well. Ramirez went 3 for 12 in the first 3 games, but bigger than that, the Red Sox lost all 3 games, and it looked like all hope was gone, and the curse would live on. But then simply, it happened. Ramirez picked up 2 hits in Game 4, as the Red Sox won in extra innings after a 9th-inning comeback. Then the next night, it happened again, to send things back to the Bronx. And after winning a hectic Game 6, they came all the way back to force a Game 7. And that Game 7, in the first inning, Manny hit a 2-out single. Then David Ortiz would hit a 2-run home run. Johnny Damon hit a grand slam the next inning, and it was essentially over. They would win 10-3 to complete the first and only 3-0 comeback against their bitter rivals. Ramirez hit .333 in those 4 games, and he was just getting started. In the World Series against the Cardinals, Manny went 3 for 5 in Game 1 with 2 RBIs in a back-and-forth 11-9 win. He picked up another hit in the Game 2 win, then the first game in St. Louis. In his first at-bat, he would hit a solo home run off Jeff Suppan, and with Pedro on the mound, it was almost all they needed, as he would pick up another hit, and they won 4-1, now just 1 win away. And that night in Game 4, he picked up his 7th hit of the series, as the Red Sox would win 3-0 to break the curse of the Bambino. Over the series, he hit .412 with a 1.088 OPS, leading him to be named World Series MVP, getting recognition for his postseason ability after all the previous heartbreaks. And it almost didn't happen, and Alex Rodriguez was almost in a Red Sox uniform, but it would work out in the end. And he continued to be worth the money. Over the next 2 seasons, he had 80 home runs and drove in almost .250, his 30-home run 100 RBI streak reaching 9, while his Silver Slugger and All-Star streak would reach 8. The Red Sox did not win a playoff game over those 2 seasons, and trade rumors constantly followed him, kind of brought along by himself. He threatened to not show up to spring training in 2006, but nothing ever materialized, and he would record hit number 2000 and home run number 450 by the end of 2006, while 2007 saw a decline for Ramirez, as he dealt with a strained oblique in the later part of the year. His 30-home run, 100 RBI streak coming to an end, but he still had his best year in the field, leading all left fielders in fielding percentage, along with high fives with fans. And with 96 wins, the Red Sox won the division. And after winning Game 1 of the ALDS against the Angels, Game 2 was tied in the 9th with 2 on, and Francisco Rodriguez on the mound. And Ramirez had the lasting image of his career, as he would belt a walk-off home run over the Green Monster. Manny hit more postseason home runs than anyone, but this will always be the most remembered. They would end up sweeping the Angels, then in facing his former team, the Red Sox found themselves down 3-1. But they were used to being in that situation at that point. And in Game 5 on the road, Manny hit a single off CC Sabathia in the 3rd to drive in a run, which gave them the lead. And the Red Sox never lost it, and everything shifted from there. Though he picked up just 1 more hit, his team picked him up, as he outscored his former team 23-4 in those 2 games, completing a 3-0 and 3-1 ALCS comeback in the span of 4 years. In the World Series against the Rockies, Ramirez recorded 3 hits and 2 RBIs in Game 1, and he would only record 1 more hit in the series. But the Red Sox won all 4 games, winning his 2nd ring and going 8-0 in the World Series while on the Red Sox. After 7 years in Boston, and many moments that furthered the phrase of Manny being Manny, that first developed in Cleveland, taking on a new meaning here, as it kind of developed from his forgetful nature. But it continued here. He once disappeared into the Green Monster during a pitching change, he once cut off a throw from his own center fielder, he sold his own grill on eBay, he lost a diamond earring sliding into 3rd, and he high-fived a fan in the middle of a double play. And that made him a fan favorite. He wanted to stay in Boston for the next 6 years, as he put it, but things would change in 2008. Less than a week after hitting his 500th home run in Baltimore, a heated exchange was shown between him and Kevin Youkilis. There was speculation that it all started with how slow Manny was to act after a bench-clearing brawl, and it would end with teammates having to separate the two. And later, an argument boiled to the point that he shelved the 64-year-old traveling secretary Jack McCormick when he could not get him tickets on short notice. Ramirez later apologized and was fined $10,000, and things just got worse. He was benched in July for knee soreness, but some on the team thought he was faking. Fans started to boo when he appeared to not be running out grounders, and as the media called for his trade, Manny told them, "The Red Sox don't deserve me." And days later, Boston would trade him in a 3-team deal to the Los Angeles Dodgers. A new chapter was about to begin, and for him, it was kinda needed, as he quickly became a star, and he returned to his peak levels. In just 53 games with the Dodgers in 2008, he hit .396 with 17 home runs and 53 RBIs. as Dodger Stadium would turn into Mannywood. The team put up signs in left field, fans wore wigs, and there were Manny t-shirts everywhere. As the Dodgers won the division, and Manny finished 4th in MVP voting after hitting 37 home runs, driving in 121, and hitting .332. In the NL playoffs for the first time, he did not slow down. He hit .500 in the NLDS against the Cubs in a sweep, then he hit .533 in the NLCS against the Phillies. The Dodgers lost that series, but he still hit .520 in the playoffs and added 4 home runs. His value was high as he became a free agent, and he joked, "Gas is up, and so am I." And it was the Dodgers who brought him back. 2 years, $45 million. He was already a Hall of Famer by the numbers, and he found a new fan base that loved him. But then, it all came crashing down. In May of 2009, as he was hitting .348, he would be suspended for 50 games for violating MLB's drug policy. He took a banned fertility drug, often used to restart testosterone after steroid cycles, used by Jason Giambi and many Balco clients. He was 37 years old, and these whispers had followed him for years. And it was revealed he was among 104 MLB players who tested positive for PEDs during anonymous testing conducted in 2003. But players faced no penalties for testing positive in the survey. When he came back, his bat wasn't quite the same. He hit .290 with 19 home runs over 104 games. Still good numbers, but not at the levels he was just at. He had his 29th and final postseason home run in Game 1 of the NLCS, but the Dodgers were knocked out by the Phillies once again. And 2010 was a sad turn. He was on the DL multiple times, and for the first time, he really showed his age. He was placed on waivers again, and was claimed by the White Sox. He had .261, no home runs, and just 1 RBI in 24 games. And that was pretty much it. But he was not ready for the ending. In 2011, he signed a minor league deal with the Tampa Bay Rays, which looked like a bargain after he hit .311 in spring training. But he played just 5 regular season games, going 1 for 17. Then he abruptly retired after another failed drug test, which would have meant a 100-game suspension. Even then, he was not done trying. He planned to play in the Dominican Winter League, but since it was affiliated with MLB, he had to serve his suspension first, and he was still not prepared for retirement. He reached an agreement for reinstatement having to serve only 50 games instead of 100, and he made himself available. Over the next decade, he was in the Cubs and Rangers system. He played in the Dominican Professional League, he played in Japan, and he expressed interest to play in China, but he was not offered, and he later signed as a player coach in Australia. He never made it to the majors again, but he never stopped being involved. Over 19 seasons, Manny Ramirez hit .312 with 2,574 hits, 555 home runs, and he drove in 1,831, with a .411 career on base percentage and a .585 slug, as he ranks 15th all-time in career home runs. He had at least 30 home runs in 12 different seasons, and drove in over 100 runs in all of those seasons. He made the All-Star team 12 times, he won 9 Silver Sluggers, a batting title, and 2 World Series, with 2004 seeing him win World Series MVP. And it was the postseason where he became much more. He hit .285 with 29 home runs, and drove in 78. His 29 playoff home runs are the most in MLB history, and he ranks top 5 all time in postseason games played, runs, hits, total bases, RBIs, and walks, where he is tied for first with Chipper Jones. An obvious Hall of Famer just based on resume alone, but the multiple PD suspensions have derailed his chances. His 34% is one of the highest among steroid users, but he's not getting in anytime soon. But before the first accusations were given in 2003, he was still one of the best in the game. And an innate ability to drive in runners, his 165 RBIs in 99 will be very hard to top. And though Jose Altuve has a very good chance to pass him in playoff home runs, is a part of him you can't take away, as just the fact that he played 111 postseason games on multiple teams showed he helped teams no matter where he went. And he also became a fan favorite everywhere he went. With his baggy uniform that matched the style of the time, Manny being Manny became a lifestyle. There were some controversies, but after starting out as a shy player, he became one of baseball's greatest personalities and hitters, regardless of what came later, as he also helped his teammates perform better and harder without them knowing. Hopefully you liked this video, and if so, please consider liking and subscribing for new videos every week. Thank you.